Hi folks, it's Malice here again with another video. This time we're talking about the point changes to the Necrons that have been brought in with the latest field manual that accompanied the recent balance datasheet. So, like I said with the Custodes video, if you've watched that, these points are being compared from what is in the Codex, and if I don't mention a specific unit, it means their points have not changed. So, let's get to it. Starting off with the Canoptic Doomstalker, which has gone up by 10 points. Not a massive point increase, it's that I'm aware of. I don't think it's a unit that sees a whole lot of play, especially in competitive environments, but still, it's clearly something in the data has warranted getting a point increase. By contrast, you have the Catacomb Command Barge, which has had a 5-point reduction. Again, it's a nice mobility tool for a Necron Overlord. Probably doesn't see the play that it once did, but will still be popular amongst certain types of Necron lists, and a points reduction is always nice. Crypto Thralls, those pesky little bodyguards for cryptics, or the ablative runes as they're otherwise known, have had a 20-point increase. So they're still cheap enough, I suppose, to get, as I say, provide some ablative runes for your cryptic, but there's you have to account for those extra points now. After that, we have the Doomsday Ark, one of my favourite vehicles out of the Necron list, which has had a 15-point increase, so I might have to do some slight tinkering with my own lists, but I can see why it's had an increase. But so there's not a lot we can do, not a lot that can be done about it. It has this increase and we have to work around it. Now we come to a quite significant reduction into the name characters and Xeris, who's a whopping 50 points cheaper than he is in the Codex. Now, I'd say that is a very nice reduction for a very nice character. There's probably stronger characters in the book, yes, but Xeris is still a very, very solid choice for what he brings to the table, and the fact he's getting all of that for 50 points less, I call a very good deal. We also come to another reduction in name characters with Imhotep the Stormlord. Again, you can't complain what you get with Imhotep for the points and the fact he's cheaper still. You have to consider that a bit of a win. Then we start coming into some of the units. So your regular Locust Destroyers. Now, with unit number shenanigans here, I'm going to go through the reductions for each size. So in this case, 1, 2, 3, and then a full squad of 6. Because that's what the document provided. So, on their own, they're 5 points cheaper. So it'll be 10 points less for 2 and 3 models, and then a whole 40 points less if you take a full squad of 6. Now, Destroyers have always been one of my favourite Necron units. For pretty much since Necrons were introduced, they've always been one of my staples. Because they perform very well. Their guns are very solid. They can handle pretty much anything out there outside of the most heavily armoured and toughest things. And even then, if you throw, law of averages dictates, if you throw enough shots at something, even the toughest, baddest things will feel the pain. Now we come to the Heavy Destroyer cousins, which have had point increases. So going up in increments of 5, so 5, 10, 15 for 1, 2 and 3 model squads respectively. Again, with the versatility of how you can tool heavy destroyers, I can sort of understand this. It's a bit of a blow, might require some list tweaking, but I'd still say that heavy destroyers is still a very solid choice within an army list. Coming now to your Destroyer Lord, or the Locust Lord as I should call them these days. Who is 10 points cheaper? Again, point reduction, Necron Lord stat line, buffs destroyers, does what it says on the tin, bish bash bosh, good deal. Lishguard, the classic bodyguard unit for foot Necron Lords. Might have had a bit of a blow with how their shields now. There's certain things in the balanced state of slate maybe, but on the plus side they are now cheaper. 10 points less for a 5-man squad, 20 less for a full 10-man squad. They're still a very good unit, can still do the bodyguard role very well. Can't complain that they're cheaper. Now we come to a couple of the big winners. The first being the Monolith, the iconic tank of the Necrons, or whatever you want to call it. The big eye-arm, slow-moving transport and deep striker of destruction. And it is now 50 points cheaper. Again, it's a linchpin for certain types of lists. Others not so much, but a 50-point discount is always very nice. Then the Obelisk. The unit most Necron players go, and you do what exactly? Very niche, only effective against certain things, and you see that in the loosest sense, but it is 25 points cheaper now. So, yeah. If you like the Obelisk, then happy days, you don't have to pay as much to put it in your list. I still think the majority of lists will be leaving it at home. Ophidian Destroyers, another favourite unit of mine. If you spot the theme, I like Destroyers yet? Well, they're cheaper as well. 10 points less for a squad of 3, 20 points less for a full squad of 6. I like this, but I love Destroyers. It's a win-win across the board for me. The Royal Warden. Nice, cheap HQ choice. Does a job, fills a slot. Bish bash bosh, low point games, win-win, and he's cheaper still. How can you complain? I always try to find room for these things in my list because I'm one of the people that runs Immortals over Warriors. But that's a debate and maybe a video for another time, because it's a one that still divides people within the Necron player base, shall we say. Scorpec Destroyers. My absolute favourite Destroyers. I love these guys, and I love the fact that they're even cheaper. 20 points less for a squad of 3, 40 points less for a full squad of 6. This makes Fair One Malice very happy. Scorpec Lord. The big bad Hitler type of the Scorpec family is also cheaper, 15 points to be exact. This also makes me very happy. Like I said, I love Destroyers. Then we come to probably one of the biggest winners in the Necron Points, and that is the Tesseract Vault. And arguably the best of their big vehicles, shall we say, with its transcending Catan payload, and it's 75 points cheaper. I can see this being popular and very much appreciated. Then we come to the Silent King, the big man himself. He's 60 points cheaper. Again, for what you get in his total package, can't complain at that. And you're getting it for less points than you ordinarily. That is a definite win-win. Because he is also, within certain lists, well, a lot more than most, but especially certain builds, he is a bit of a linchpin. So if you're saving points on that, happy days, you can't go wrong. Then we come to the Treyarch Praetorians. Another unit that's had a point reduction. 20 points less for a 5-man squad, 40 points less for a full 10-man squad. Point reductions are always good. They're not a unit I'd use myself that often, but they have a use. Some people like using them, that's fair enough. I always go by play what you like in the rule of cool. You can get them in your list for cheaper. That's always a win. Next up, we have the Treyarch Stalker, which is the big spidery walker thing. Something I've had a bit of a soft spot for, and with a 35-point discount, I might see if I can maybe potentially shoehorn it into some of my lists. And finally, we go to the Forge World side with the Necron Spectrum, to the big Titany thing, the Seraptech Heavy Construct. And that's got a whopping 70-point increase. Now, in the grand scheme of things, it's still relatively cheap, considering the size of the model. It's actually not that much more expensive than the biggest. It might actually be cheaper than even the biggest Imperial Knights. It's certainly in between the Questoris and the big boys. So it's in that sort of territory. So in the grand scheme of things, for a big Titan-esque walker, it's still reasonable value, but it's had a 70-point increase. And that wraps up those changes. So again, is there anything in there you're happy about, unhappy about? Anything that's going to tweak your lists radically? As always, let me know in the comments, and until the next video, I shall see you later. Bye.